Hello there. And my name is Anthony. I'm streaming at a different time than usual, and working on a painting I've worked on before, maybe 3 times while I was streaming. I'm just gonna keep on going here. I'm working on some of the foreground at the bottom, where there's this sort of like ice pebbly sort of glacier mountain sand stuff going on. So I already did a layer a few weeks ago, and it dried, of course. And so I went back over this area on the right here, and I added this very kind of light, sort of dry, not really dry, but painted a bunch of paint on here with a transparent color in a way that it really only hit the top kind of ridges of the surface. So it didn't really coat the whole thing, it just kind of hit some places where there was this texture going on. It's really showing up on the camera, but it's kind of, I did it intentionally just to make it have more of that sort of texture that I have in the image, where there's this kind of stuff going on the bottom there. So it's kind of a way to try to give the appearance of that without painting every individual little kind of shape that's down there, which could take a really long time. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more on the other side here on the left, and you know, it doesn't look great right now. So this is just the second layer, and then I'm going to be going back over it again with kind of the light blue color to sort of adjust it here and there. So over on the left, I'm going to just do the same thing, and there's this kind of dark gray, almost blackish sort of dust or dirt or something that's coming from the mountains that looks like it's blowing around and landing on the area down this way. So I am kind of giving it, making it dirty. Basically what I'm doing. That's how it's supposed to look. So I had originally painted this just with white and blue here, and adjusting the magnification on my reference image. So I was kind of using the blue originally in place of this dark gray, and so now I'm just kind of actually going in there and adding the gray. So there's this one little part over here. I was just checking to make sure this was not in the wrong place, but it's actually fine. There's another whole section here I just didn't even paint yet, so let's go ahead and put that in there. One of those things where I want to really make sure I get it in the right place before I really put a bunch of shapes in there and cover it. So I think it's right around here. I'm at the edge of this piece here. It looks like a kind of big chunk of snow, or maybe snow that melted and starting to become ice. Looks like it kind of broke and just fell off to the side, kind of going down this little ravine. A lot of things happening here where it's just sort of subtle differences in the way that the ice looks, where there's these sort of kind of like cracks here and there. There's one right over this way, and then there's a few kind of over on the other side. And there's sort of places that look almost like mountains over that way. This area that's kind of aqua looks like it's water that maybe it's just kind of melted off of the snow and gone down into that area. And so the color is different there. Over here, there's an area where there's this little kind of peninsula coming out or whatever. It's not going to be gray there, but the area below it is. I want to be careful not to go over the dress if I can avoid it because it's so white. Covering it later will be easier if there's not a big dark gray spot. Going to be a reflection right there from that piece of ice coming out also at some point, but not yet. Actually putting the paint on in a way where it's sort of skipping across the surface here and there where I can make it do that, which helps give it the texture of this ice formation. It's very uneven. Definitely, I'm going to need some more blue here and there later on, a darker blue, and some places we'll be getting a little bit of a white highlight. And these are all just kind of different shapes that don't really show too much the kind of dimension of what's happening here. Not like when you're painting something that's very specific, like a chair or something. I mean, I could really change these shapes kind of a lot and probably wouldn't affect things all that much in the image. But there's cases where if you do that, it might surprise you just how much it affects things, and sort of subtle things that happen sometimes that don't really seem all that important, but they kind of show us in a way we may not be aware of at all, kind of how, you know, there's some depth happening or something like that. These segments here, I don't know exactly what's going on with them. I don't know if there's some kind of shift that happens in the ice and maybe it cracks and splits a little bit or whatever that is, but I mean, ice doesn't exactly expand and contract like a sidewalk, but you know, it can melt and then freeze again. Maybe if the whole structure is kind of made of ice, it's not exactly stable. So as things are melting and changing, one section might kind of crack and just only drop a small amount. But whatever it is, this is how it looks. So I'm just painting it. I want to actually get rid of a little bit of the line that I just put on there. It's too far over. little area here on the left that looks a little bit like a, I don't know, a seabird or something. This kind of beak shape coming out to the right or to the left. It's definitely one of those. Doing that kind of effect again where I'm just trying to get the paint to sort of skip across the surface, keep it really rough. I can really help to give this appearance of this kind of thing that's happening here. Didn't totally plan this while I was doing the first layer. I don't know, maybe I kind of thought I might do something like this, but one of those cases where I just was thinking about how to do it and I was like, let me try it like that. And it seems to be going pretty well. It's really working pretty good over here. Got to keep the brush very parallel to the surface to get it to do this. You can also potentially use a palette knife to do the same kind of thing. Sometimes you get a kind of nice looking effect that's working well for the texture, but it doesn't necessarily match the values, which is the light and dark areas. You kind of have to decide which is more important, getting it a little bit closer to the reference or just kind of keeping what's happening already and going with it. Right now I think I want to fade this darker area as it goes up there a little bit more. I'm going to wipe off a little bit of this part on the bottom here. I like this texture. It looks a little bit like, not Italian ice, but well, I guess that is kind of what I'm thinking of. Like Italian ice, but like really gigantic chunks of ice. Like if you had a really big bowl of Italian ice, like a giant or something. That's kind of what this looks like in the photo. Only the flavor would be dirt. I think I made this one little bump here a little bit too high. I'm going to move that later on. And not like it really matters that much though. Actually, yeah, I think this area here is too far to the right also. You know what? I need to look at this 100%. Much easier to see if everything is where it should be or not when things are the same size. The reference and the image. Well, it looks like there may be a few things that are not exactly where they need to be actually. This edge right over here for that snow. I'm going to bring it over. So I think while I'm doing this, because there's so many just amorphous shapes all over the place, I'm going to actually get another brush and start marking where those things need to go as I go along. Get some lead titanium white. Mark some of these places that need to be kind of updated. Well, a guy just streaming at 1:45 in the morning with nobody watching could really identify with Tom Hanks on that island. I'm gonna be talking to a volleyball soon. So, I think this goes over to right around here. Looking at where it is between these two mountains up here, and like where that ends up, maybe a little bit further. Straighten out this whole piece here now that I'm working on it. Some of this aqua color went a little bit farther than I needed it to. Okay, so bring it over just a little bit more, and then I think that's fine. Again, not like anyone is going to care if this piece of snow is half an inch to the right from where it is right now, but things kind of have a stacking effect. One thing is off, it leads to often several things being off, which some of those might be a little harder to take care of than what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna just adjust this little place right over here. Well, now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure if this is actually in the right place compared to where I have the edge of the kind of train of the dress there. Looking like this line right over here should be right around halfway between the edge of the snow here and the edge of the painting on the left, which would put it a little bit further out to the right. So I think actually the thing that's really not exactly right is maybe the angle, because this looks like it's starting in the right place here. Maybe it needs to go more vertical. So let me just do that. I guess this could go over a little bit more on the right, on the bottom also. I'm sitting for what I'm working on right now. For painting this big, normally I like to stand, but I actually have this up. I could put it up higher, but just because what I'm working on right here is so low, it's just more convenient to just sit and work on it instead of like bending over or lifting it way up to the point where it's so high that, you know, the camera wouldn't even be able to see it that well. Plus, the higher the painting gets, the more reflection you get from the lights. So it can make it harder to see certain things. Some of these places where there's like a little area kind of dug out, it gets bluer on the side, and then on the top it's more white. You kind of see that definitely happening right here. Gonna need a little bit more of this slate. This is my slate gray. A nice, extremely transparent color for what I'm doing right now. Place where I grew up. It's an old historic town, and there was a lot of slate sidewalks. Back before they used concrete, they had just big slabs of slate to walk on. Really, a cool and a unique feature of the town. I don't know if I've ever seen it anywhere else. It's Morristown, New Jersey. Lots of nice houses there, old Victorian style. I'm going to just go over this area here a little bit more. I don't think there's too much more to do right here. And I'll be going on to another spot. Like some of the texture I'm getting here is a little bit like those kind of black and white notebooks that kids use in high school for composition or whatever it says on the cover. Like a really coarse, rough, sort of random looking texture like that. Using the narrow side of this brush, this is a filbert, do the kind of more defined areas like this where it's supposed to be a hard edge. Is there something going behind something else? And I want to make it softer on the other side so it doesn't look like it's just a line I drew there. This is one of those things that could go really easy, just getting this texture in here, or you could try to do it and it just doesn't work at all. Just the slightest little change and various things can lead to that happening one way or the other. But definitely holding the brush as parallel to the surface as you can will really help, probably more than just about anything else. Anybody watching live, if you have a comment or a question, feel free. Of course, I realize I'm probably talking to myself right now. What else is new? Okay, so I think this is looking pretty good. Oh, I'm gonna wipe off some of this one spot here. I think actually I will get my little eraser tool. There's a lot of texture on here already. I'm not sure how it's going to work with that, but I'm going to just try it. Works really well on a flat surface when you're just in the beginning. Yeah, it's going okay. Gotta go maybe with the grain of the brush strokes I made here underneath. Okay, that was much better actually. I don't really need to get all of it off of there because I'm going to go back over this anyway to do the same thing I have on the other side. Give it a little bit of that gray, but I don't want a big line, so I need to get rid of that. And now I'm just looking at where this little kind of divot is right over here. Maybe I had it right the first time actually, since I moved this over. I think that maybe, yeah, you know, this is maybe not so bad actually. Right over here. Again, does it really matter? Probably not. There was a time where I felt like I had to get everything in exactly the right spot or else I was not doing a good job for the painting or whatever. I don't really have that kind of issue anymore. Sometimes it's much better to move things because they wouldn't look as good if you did it exactly like the reference, but overall it's best to try to get the image as close to the reference as you can unless you actually need to change it for some reason. But the more you change it, the more kind of dangerous it becomes. Thinking this needs to come down just a little bit right here. Should be thicker than the snow piece. Snow ice. It's nice piece up there. And snow kind of starts melting and turning into water. We call it slush. Up in the north where we get snow a lot. When the snow turns to ice though, I guess there's not really a word for that here. But snice is as good a word as any, I guess. I remember hearing Eskimos have like 50 different names for snow. Maybe 30, I don't know. Never actually met an Eskimo. For all I know, that's not true at all. It's hard to know what to believe these days. Of course, when people came back from America in the late 1400s, early 1500s, there were stories of people with more than one head and all kinds of things, so I guess there's always been plenty of misinformation out there. There's this little place where this kind of trails off over this way here. Be careful when I actually go over this to not lose all the stuff I'm doing right now. Now this kind of it's supposed to line up with that line right there, but I think I want to bring that down a little bit. Shouldn't be going quite that high. This line here is a little bit more horizontal. Now I'm going over this very lightly to give this texture over here. Just hitting the peaks of all the brush strokes underneath here that are dry. I think looks pretty cool. Not exactly what I need, but to give it some texture, I think it's working pretty well. I first used this effect back in high school when I was doing an acrylic painting, back in my acrylic days, and it was a layer I did of just some white, and then I went back over it, dry brushed it specifically with this kind of a thing, and got a kind of interesting looking effect. I guess I haven't really seen too many people do this, but I mean, I'm not the only one. As Kurt Cobain said in memory, never mind. No, what was it? Yeah. What was it? Now I can't remember. You know, that song on Nevermind. Come as you are. Yeah, that was it. I need to get just the right amount of paint on the brush here to really get these little peaks on the edge. That was a little bit too much. I guess it's okay. I definitely don't want to cover the surface too much here. It looks pretty even. There's a little bit of variation, but the surface below looks fairly even, despite all the little brush strokes and everything I did. So I want to kind of break that up some more. Probably after I've done this and I let it dry, I can just work on it with one more layer. That'll probably be enough, at least for this section here. I'll have to go back over the top part, well, I guess the more like the middle part, sort of touch that up, but a lot of the things that are in there are, I think, working pretty well. Gotta just kind of refine it some more. And I also have to make sure it matches the right side, but this is a little bit darker right here on the image, so it should be just darker than what's over there, just because of that. A little bit of shadow coming off of the couplet here, but this is a fairly overcast day, at least the way the light's hitting them. There's not really much direct sunlight. It looks like a little bit maybe hitting down on the back of the leg here. The light source really makes a big difference as far as how everything looks. There's high contrast or much softer or whatever. Oh, really skipping right there now. There's a blob. Oh, pressing harder now, it's getting actually much better effect right there. Kind of risky to press hard because you get more of a chance of kind of just getting too much paint on there. But it's actually working pretty well. I don't know where this white paint came from, but somehow it's got, oh, maybe I guess I hit the snow a little bit over here. A little bit contaminated, but doesn't really matter. Definitely gonna get rid of a few of these little blobs here that aren't supposed to actually be there. I think I want to bring this sort of shadow area up here right next to the snow a little bit more because that's how it is. Reference. I'm gonna wipe out a little section right here. That's not really supposed to be connected now that I brought this over to the right some more. Just kind of wiping off some of the paint with the brush here. Well, so I'll get rid of some of these blobs here now. I'm gonna go underneath the bottom area here now and put the texture in there. Same way I just did it on the top part. Definitely a lot of texture, a lot of shadow down here. Definitely needs to be darker. Darker than what's above there, above the dress. The train. Nope. Well, okay. Definitely didn't want that. This big streak of dark gray on there. Big line. Well, that's unfortunate. The place right above there looked nice, but I guess that's okay. Not sure how much this is going to show through anyway. I'm going to be going back over it, but planning to let it show through, at least somewhat. Well, that's definitely not supposed to be there. Just see if I can just scoop it up. Yeah, that's not good either. Okay, well, fix that up too. It's a kind of unpredictable way of just putting the paint on right now. It's really relying on just the surface there to kind of make the paint show as it's going to show. I just can't really flip this over without wiping it on the palette first, because each time I do it, it looks like crap. I'm going to lighten it as it comes over to the right here. Get it to match up with this other side that I did already. I'm going to outline the dress here a little bit, because the shadow is definitely noticeable right there, right along the edge. And it's just connecting over here now. It's a little dark right there, but kind of touch that up. All right, well, that's gonna do it for today. So I'm actually gonna just bring the camera over because I don't know how well you're really able to see this texture from far away, but just to get a look at it. This is what it looks like over here, just from going over the peaks. And then over this way, I just went over it and did kind of the same type of thing. And I gotta get this to match a little bit better, but kind of just connecting over there with the earlier part I did. So that's about it. All right, well, thanks for watching, and see you next time. That's the wrong thing. Nope, that's not it.